Hello and welcome back to Microvellum Live. We are glad that you took the time to be with us here today. We are broadcasting to you live from Southern Oregon at the headquarters of Microvellum SOFTWARE, and this week we are going to be talking about engineering custom products. And today we've attracted quite a few people here to this to the live today. It's a good topic, and we definitely appreciate each of you being here today. It looks like people are still funneling in right now. So that is good. We have a full plate of information to cover. But before we get into today's episode, and for the sake of a lot of the new people who may be joining us here for the first time, let's just cover some of the basics on how we are going to run things today. We are broadcasting here on our Zoom platform, which many of you are familiar with, but we are also streaming on YouTube right now as well, for those of you who prefer that channel. We're available to answer questions at any time throughout the presentation, so please use the question and answer UI here on Zoom or the chat feed over on YouTube. We'll be monitoring both areas for questions, and we'll even see if we can get our presenters to answer some of those questions live for you. But we also have a number of techs helping out behind the scenes to chat those questions or the answers back to you. And as usual, we are recording this episode, so you'll be able to find this one as well as the other live episodes that we've recorded throughout the past, posted on our website at microvellum.com/live. All right, so in our software, there are many different ways to engineer custom products. But today we're going to be focusing on product starters, and these are products that you can find in our standard cabinet libraries that allow you to do a lot of things to quickly configure cabinets, whether you're working with drawers, shelves, doors, or any other type of inserts that we have. Using product starters can definitely help you configure a cabinet very quickly. But before I go into too much more of a description as to what they do, let's introduce a few people that are going to be helping us here really understand the purpose behind them and how they work and maybe what sort of flexibility that they offer. And so here with us today, joining our conversation, we have Lenny Scianna, one of our leaders here on our product development team.
Hello, hello.
We also have Amy Reisnauer, service technician here with Microvellum.
Hello, everybody.
And she's going to be leading the instruction on product starters in just a bit. But we've also invited Chris Vitalis from Travis Millwork in San Antonio, Texas. So thank you guys for being here with us today.
Oh. Hello.
Hey, Chris. So Lenny, let's go back in time just a bit in the days before product starters. Let's talk about what life was like for users when it came to engineering custom products before product starters, and maybe what led to some of the development of this type of library product.
Yes. So going way back to the beginning of Microvellum, when it first started, when it came to making like a quick custom product that maybe you didn't already have in your catalog, our only option really at the time was you just got to open up the spreadsheet and start customizing, the cut list. So, and sometimes, this is a perfectly fine approach. I've gotten really fast at it over the years. A lot of people love spreadsheets, but user feedback, told us, especially new Microvellum users, that that's often not the most desirable way of going about it for a custom one-off. So we came up with the concept, like you said, of a starter product and then these things called a subassembly insert. And so at first, the Microvellum library developers or users, they were designing these subassemblies. And at first we kind of had very little control to prevent users from doing incorrect things. So we ended up with somebody was trying to put a sink insert inside of a tall cabinet, or they had, they were trying to put face frame inserts inside of a frameless cabinet, stuff like that. Plus there was a lot of just unnecessary clicking and, slow loading times and to add the subassembly. So with the help of continued user feedback, fast forward to today, the library data kind of has evolved to address many of these original challenges. So one example is we now just have these simple little combo boxes that you can set up in the product prompts form that you can sort of, guide the user into designing the product in a way that, the creator intended. And I'm pretty sure that Amy will be showing us these combo boxes up here shortly. So that's kind of a quick little history of where we were and where it's come, and looking forward to watching Amy's training thing here.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Lenny, for that.
Yep.
And I know our users are definitely appreciating this addition to the library. And speaking of, let's take a moment and chat with Chris, user at Travis Millwork. I think thanks for joining us, by the way, again, Chris.
Yes. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you perfectly.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, I work for Travis Millwork. We're located in San Antonio, Texas. And we've been using Microvellum. Well, I've been with the company for about 4.5 years now. And when I first got hired, we were using Microvellum. But product starters have really helped us out. We here at the company, we specialize in really a whole bunch of diversity of products. We do commercial casework as well as residential. We do trim work, countertops, custom furniture pieces, things like that. And product starters have really helped us out where they've made processing the job quicker and easier. It's just you do a lot of the work in the product prompts for the feature for the product starter feature, and it's made it a lot easier from what it was before, back in the day, I guess, before we had product starters.
Awesome. And so how did you first come to learn about the product starters?
Well, I had heard about them. So we recently had a training segment with Amy, and I had heard about them before. But when Amy came over for our on-site training, we got we really got into the product starters. And she showed us how easy it was to work with this feature in Microvellum. And when we were going through the training pieces, and as you can see on the screen, that was one of the products that we did with the product starter feature. It was great. You know, it took less time than it normally would to create a custom piece just like that one on screen.
Right. How often do you find yourself using the product starters? Is it pretty much an everyday occurrence with all the different projects you may be working on, or do you find, how frequent do you use those?
Well, usually here at the company, we have, we just have box jobs, which is basically run-of-the-mill jobs. But sometimes we'll have a job where it'll have a custom cabinet, like I guess like a vanity or a serving area, where you have a section for a sink, and then maybe some doors in the bottom with some drawers. It's those kind of jobs where the product starters have really helped us out. It's the jobs where you have a funny cabinet that the customer is looking for, and it's been very helpful.
Right. So what was the learning curve for you?
It's actually not too difficult. If you all know how to use product prompts in Microvellum to input your products, that's basically where you guys are going to be doing most of your work. It's you'll have options to select different amount of bays that you want in your product, and in each bay there'll be a tab up at the top of the prompts. You can choose whatever option you'd like. So it's really familiar. It's familiar if you all know product prompts, and it's great too because it draws as a regular product. So if you want to see it, all you have to do is draw the product in 3D, and you'll see exactly what information you've put in.
Great. Well, that sounds really good, and I think we appreciate hearing how you're using these products and learning about your company there.
Sure. I'm happy I could help.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it again. And so Chris will be on. If you guys have those listening in, if you have questions that you want to direct towards Chris, he will be staying on. And if you want to ask those, just go ahead and chat those there, or type those there in the Q&A panel, and we will get back with you. Chris will as well. So let's see here. Now that we know a little bit more about the product starters, how they're helping users engineer custom products faster, let's get into how we go about using those. And so, Amy, it looks like we've got a good mixture here today. The poll has been running. We've got almost, I'm going to say, let's see, 36% here are running a fairly newer version. We've got a good percentage on version 6.7 still, and quite a few here running the latest release, as well as some people who are not yet users of Microvellum. So that's good too. So good mixture.
Perfect. So most clients will either produce, if you're in the residential world, they've went shopping on Pinterest or went to Home Depot and taken some pictures, or the architect got the new latest magazine out and said, this is what I want. As a Microvellum user, you look at that and go over into your little library, and none of these exist, and you have to create them. Like Lenny said in the beginning, You had to move all of your doors and your dividers and then try to drop in sub-assemblies. And about the time you finally got it finished, 4 days later, your project manager called you up and said, the field dimensions have changed by 1 inch and I need you to shrink it all. And so then 4 days later, you finally shrank it all back down. So I am here to show you how to make this a little bit easier. I've got some pre-prepped, but we're going to go ahead and work through it. As you can see in this X-ray view, some of the items that I just showed you in those pictures, I have already created, and it was very simple that way. A few notes that I do want to make about how my screen is set up. I do not use ribbons. I type everything with my AutoCAD commands. I've made it a little bit quicker. You can always change your PGP files or go in and look for those. So if you have any questions with that, we can definitely help you out. I also move my toolbox over to the right. You can drag and drop that toolbox wherever you need to. I'm right-handed. To me, it's a little bit easier to move a little motion than going all the way over and coming to the left. Another quick thing, if you do move it to the right, there's a toolbox set up and you can flip the tool strips, and that makes your quick Microvellum quick tools a little bit faster to reach. I would definitely say make sure anything that you're using, and I'm going to use it off of both of these screens and show you actually where they are in the products in the Microvellum toolbar. This makes it a little bit quicker. That way you can keep everything in your products. So the first thing that we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and recreate this one cabinet right here, and this is a base starter cabinet. We are going to go to our draw products. Microvellum has broken it down now into a face frame and a frameless library all in one. Earlier versions you had 2 different libraries, but now they're all combined. Inside of each of these, in the face frame, you have product starters face frame, and cabinets frameless. You have your product starters right here. So always make sure that you're using the face frame or the frameless, depending on what kind of look you need and what your manufacturing is. I'm going to go ahead and drop into my product starters. It breaks it down once again into your bases, your talls, and your uppers. There are a few more in here that you can play with if the first 3 do not fit your needs, but we're going to play with the base and the tall on this session. The difference between the horizontal and the vertical, if you click it, you can see the pictures. The horizontals are going to drop your bays from left to right, and it's going to do your verticals from top to bottom. So our first one that we are going to do is actually a vertical. So always get your first product and kind of figure out what do you need to drop in. The reason I selected vertical on this, let's go to our hidden view here, is because I have a section here, a section in the middle, and a section at the bottom, and that fits my vertical. So let's do our base vertical. You're going to left click, right click on it. Since I'm not dropping it in a wall or anything, I'm going to do place product at a selected point and pop it up here. Now what you're going to see, like Chris had mentioned, you have different bay options. You still have all of your width and your heights and your depths, your fillers, your lefts, rights, everything that you have for the normal product, you have those options with that. So I'm going to go ahead and change my width to 54, my height at 48, and at 18. Once again, you can control all this stuff by your project wizards or anything if you're setting it up. Your bay quantities. Your bay quantities are actually the openings that you need to create. So we have 1, 2, 3. We will keep that. I'll get here to your heights here shortly. And then once we create our bays 1, 2, and 3, we have tabs up here. So as you can see, if I needed 8, it would create 8 of those. So you have an option with this to do 9 different bays from left to right. And that's the way they're numbered. Bay 1 is left, bay 3 is to the right. With the drawer front calculators, you have your bay height calculators the same way. So we can go to calculators, vertical bay calculator. The difference with this calculator than what you normally see in a drawer stack. A drawer stack, you can tell it that you want a 6-inch drawer front, and that's what it's going to make it. A bay calculator is actually the clearance inside of a top and a divider or a bottom and divider. That's the clearance that you're creating in with that. So it may take you a little bit to have any kind of math or anything to be able to figure out if you're actually putting doors and your doors need to be a certain size, because all your bay calculators are calculated by the openings. All right, so I am going to create this at 6 inches because that's my drawers that I'm going to put at the top. 18 inches is going to be my opening. And just like with any other of the products in Microvellum, you can do equal calculate. So if I change my height, it's always going to hold my 6, my 18, and then the 16.5 is going to calculate to whatever we change it. That's the good thing about these product starters. If you get in here and start manipulating heights, widths, depths, and everything, it is going to be parametric and hold its shape and formulas. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to our bay. And as I said, bay 1 is going to be the top. And I'm going to put one double drawer in there. As you can see on the bottom right hand side, these are my pictures. Basically, you're dropping a cabinet inside of the hole of the cabinet that you created. And you can pick any of these options. So here we go with a one double drawer. And you say, Amy, I can't pick anything. I can't pick my slides. I can't pick any of that. I'll show you how to get there in just a second. Bay number 2, we're going to go ahead and leave it open at the moment. And we're going to, or sorry, actually we're not. We are going to add this as a horizontal opening splitter. Once again, you can see this. What I'm going to do with these is I'm going to break that opening down into more openings. So I'm going to go ahead and do a horizontal opening splitter. And then in bay 3, we are going to put a base 2 door. Remember when you're dropping these in, you would think that a base 2 door, a tall 2 door, and an upper 2 door are going to be the same exact thing. It's 2 doors with some pulls. Always remember that your pulls are where they're going to be located. So on a base door, they're going to be at the top. At an upper door, they're going to be down at the bottom. And in your tall door, depending on how you have it set up in your project wizards, it's going to go into the middle most likely. So we want to do a base 2 door. And I'm actually just going to go ahead and stick an adjustable shelf in there. We're going to go ahead and draw this product out. I am on the 49.1 library, and I am on the 11.13 update. Let's see. So as you can see, we're fairly close to what we just created, and I think that was maybe 5 minutes that we already have it to this level. Now, what we want to be able to do is manipulate what's going inside of here. I need to actually add some kind of wine rack in here. Those openings are too big. I need some fixed shelves to put inside of here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into what they call a nested subassembly. There's 3 different ways to get into this. I'm going to show you the first way right now. We're going to go back into our product prompts. Click on this cabinet. And then because we don't have our options in our bays, we're going to right click again and go into our subassembly files. You probably approach this when you're doing anything with doors and drawers. You can get to this in a normal product. The good thing with the bays and the dividers is this actually breaks it down. As you can see in our comments, we have a bay 1 and we dropped in a double drawer. We have our bay 2 and we have a horizontal opening, and our bay 3 is our base door. So those are the subassemblies that we dropped inside of there. As you can see, they're red, they're all formulated, they're parametric, so they're going to be able to change. Let's go into our horizontal opening. We're going to left click and then right click and show subassembly prompts. Now you have this option again. You can change your different dividers inside of here. You can change depths if you need to, or how many openings. If we needed 5 openings instead of 3 openings, or maybe 2 openings, we can change all of that information right here. Actually, once again, you can right click and go to your calculators and do your horizontal calculators. Now the same thing with this one, your bays and your openings are going to be the clearance inside of there. It's not actually going to be the door front or drawer front sizes. It's actually going to just be the opening. So I'm going to go ahead and do 6 on one side and 6 on the other. And I'm going to let my middle calculate out and be what it needs to be. All right. Opening number 1, we're going to leave it open and I'm going to put some kind of shelf inside of there. Opening number 2, I'm going to leave it open, but I'm going to do this wine X rack. Opening number 3, I'm going to leave it open and do a fixed shelf. I can't get in here. I want to be able to change this to a fixed shelf. So if we go in here and press OK, And as Chris knows, and some of the other people that I trained, this is when you get into your Valley Girl and you OK back out of here. There are about 14 different OKs. As you can see, it's drawn it out. It's put these dividers 6 inches away from here. We've got our X divider and our shelves. Problem is if you look at those are adjustable shelves, not a fixed shelf. Here's my 2 different ways to be able to get to this. I could go back in my product starter, click on that opening, right click, go into my sub-assemblies. Go to my horizontal opening, right click. Now you have this nested sub-assemblies, and you can break it down into the divisions and the adjustable shelves and the openings and stuff like that if you wanted to be able to break it down. Or you can go into modify sub-assemblies, show sub-assembly prompts, and now I'm going to click on that shelf. Always read this, it gets a little bit confusing, but I want to play with the adjustable and fixed shelf, so I'm going to say yes. If you wanted to actually change and go back to that horizontal opening, we could say no. It's not like yes, no, or cancel or anything like that. It's a little bit different, so make sure that you read those. I'm going to go into this fixed shelf, and I'm actually going to fix it. And if I needed to change my shelf location, I could go in here and change it. If I needed a 6-inch opening for a certain wine bottle or something like that, you can modify those. All right, so that really quickly gets that in there for you. The really cool thing about this, if I go in here and they decided they wanted it 60 inches tall and 72 inches wide, boom, 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 it's parametric, and you don't have to worry about moving everything around. So now you have that custom product really quickly. All of these settings and stuff for your drawer pulls and different things like that can be modified all using your regular standard project wizards and project specifications. All right, this is the one thing that I said. See how I had to go back out into my modify sub-assemblies, my show subs. Go ahead and plug it right in here. If you don't know how to do that, we're at Edit Custom Toolbar. You can add any command in Microvellum that you need to add in there and say okay, and it's going to pop it up there. Very quick versus trying to go back in there. I try to stay right here because this is what I'm going to draw out of. All right. Our second product that we're going to cover today is a face frame. That way everybody can see this. These are a little bit different. It does take a little bit more thinking with it. So we're going to go into the face frame product starters face frame. We're going to use a base horizontal. There are options to do a multi-carcass or a regular carcass. I'm just going to go into the base starter horizontal, right click, place it, and drop it in here. Same thing again, if you wanted to do inset doors, 5-piece doors, any of that kind of stuff, it's going to be the same as any of your other products. I'm going to go ahead and start with one that's 90 inches wide. I'm going to go ahead and keep it at 3 bays that we had before because we're going to mimic that other one. We do our bay calculators. Because I'm going to put sinks on the left and right, I want to hold those and calculate these other ones. The reason I suggest this one is in residential or hotels or anything like that. You're going to pay less labor if you are going to ship it all in one piece. That way they're picking up and carry in one piece. You're going to pay your installer one time to be able to install one cabinet versus 3 different cabinets. My husband's an installer. He loves to make that money, but he'd rather install just one cabinet. Your materials, if you don't have to do a 2 left sides and right sides and you're only putting a divider, if that's a half a sheet of material and you're making 20 of these, how much money did you just save to be able to combine these 2 things together? Your guys at the clamp, they're doing it one time versus 3 different times. They're running one piece through the edge bander versus 3 or 4 pieces through the edge bander trying to make this out. So not only does it save time in the engineering side of things, it's also going to help you in your material manufacturing and installation and your delivery process with this. All right, so let's go back into our Bay 1. And I am actually going to do a, what did I pick on this? Vertical face frame splitter. And then I am going to do a 3-drawer. This is a little bit different with your face frame because you had to have different options with rails and stuff. I'm just going to go ahead and drop it in as a 3. And then I'm going to do a vertical splitting on this one. The other options that you have with face frame, and it's going to take you a little bit to kind of play with this, is you have the options to be able to do double divisions and centered and that kind of stuff. So it all kind of depends on your manufacturing process, what kind of hardware you use and that kind of stuff to make these work a little bit more. So definitely play around with your face frame options and your division options. All right, I'm going to go ahead and draw this one out. Okay, we're getting pretty close to this, but it's a little bit different. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump back in here into my product prompts. You can go into subassemblies. To me, it's a little bit easier to go ahead and follow through and figure out what I want to do. Also, if I'm going to manipulate several things, it's much easier to do it through this interface than trying to click on each separate subassembly that I want to modify. All right, so as you can see, again, this is all of our carcasses and divisions, our face frames and everything, but we have our opening in Bay 1. Remember, it's to the left. Bay 2 is in the center, and Bay 3 is going to be the right. It's always going to be that left to right, top to bottom. All right, let's go into our vertical opening splitter, show our prompts. I'm only going to do 2 openings on this. And then I want to do my calculators. I'm going to put a drawer at the bottom. And then opening number 1, I'm going to put a 2-door base. Remember, once again, this is going to depend on where you want your pulls at. I can put an adjustable shelf inside of there. Opening 2, I'm just going to put a single drawer. As you can see, this turns red. That means I went in there and modified something or changed something. As you can see, it's changed it right there on the 1 row. I'm going to go to my 3-drawer and go to my subassembly prompts right here because I want to be able to manually manipulate those calculators. We're going to hold that one out. Then I'm going to go into my 3rd vertical splitter. Ahead of myself here, I want 2 openings. Right click, calculate it. 8 on the bottom. My base double door. I'm not going to put a shelf in that one. And single. We're going to OK. All right, and as Chris and everybody knows, we're going to Valley Girl back out of it. There's a lot of OKs. You're agreeing to subassemblies and changing that. Always make sure we do have options in our company setup to allow permissions, and then that way, if you needed to make sure that somebody wasn't saving to the libraries or changing all the subassemblies and stuff like that, there are permissions to allow you to only change it back to the certain rows. So here we go really quickly. We've got a face frame cabinet that you can easily manipulate if you needed to. If you decided here that this isn't what you wanted inside of there, you didn't want your 3-drawer stack, you can open this up, go into your Bay 2, and I want to put a 1-door, 1-drawer inside of here. And boom, you've changed it really quick. The client changed their mind on something and you can pop that in real quickly. All right, same thing once again. Get back your field dimensions and you're changing it back to 72 because it's really going to throw it off a little bit. My little tiny drawer that doesn't work. I didn't do my math very well, but there you go. You can change it to any size that you need to. Really quickly, I could go back in there and redo my calculations instead of 30 inches for my clearances. Once again, remember, all your bays and your openings are the actual opening inside. It's not going to actually be your doors and drawers, so it may take a little bit of math if you're trying to line up cabinets, doors and drawers all the way across. All right, let's go back to this big famous one. Microvellum had done a great job. They were starting to try to put in microwave ovens and cabinets, and you know that they're going to change it no matter what, whoever's owning it. They went to Home Depot, they got the latest oven, then they decided that that's not the one that they wanted anymore, or up until the moment they decided to install it, they changed their mind and bought another one. So you have convection ovens, microwave ovens, double ovens, you have warmer drawers, all this kind of stuff that goes inside of here, and it never actually works the way it needs to be. So we're going to go back to our product starters, cabinets frameless, and we're going to go to our tall, and this time we're going to use a vertical instead of the horizontal with our tall cabinet, because remember, we're going to count openings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way down. So let's do our tall starter vertical, right click. And we're going to put it right down here. Once again, you can change all your widths and heights as you need it. Now, one thing that I will say with this is I'm getting ready to put it up at 9 foot. Most material's not going to come in at 9 foot. So always be aware. Microvellum is not going to do the math for you. If you have put in a 9-foot cabinet and you only have 8-foot material, it's not going to split it somewhere for you. If you have grained material like we just had in that other cabinet and it needs a back that's going to be 8 or 10 foot wide, then you're going to have to tell it to go in there and split that back, or be aware that that back needs to be split. That's the one thing with this, is it's not like an extruded product builder where you can set your parameters on materials and it's going to start and stop. So always be aware of what material you have available to you and how you're actually going to construct this, because it's not going to do that math for you. It is an easy button, but it's not quite that smart and easy yet. All right, we actually need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 openings on this one. Once again, you can go up to 9 openings if you needed to. You can do your vertical bay calculators. And I'm just going to do the 2 middle ones because I have an 18. And this one's nice on this because if you actually need a clearance for microwaves and stuff, that's what the clearance is going to provide. And I can equal all of these out. Bay 1. I want to make this an upper door because I need my pulls to be down at the bottom. So we're going to have an upper door here. 2 upper doors here. We're going to leave these 2 open because they're going to be microwaves. And down in bay 5, I'm actually going to do a 2 drawer right inside of there. I'm sorry, I'm off screen a little bit right here. I'm going to drop that in there. My math was not correct somewhere. Let me go ahead and force this one to be. Got a little bit fast when I was typing some of that stuff in. All right, so now you have your different openings. Once again, we can go to the subassembly prompts that we put in our little cheat sheet, or we can go here to our modify show subassemblies, or you can go from your product prompts. Let's go ahead and go into our show subassembly prompts. We want to modify this 2 drawer. So on this one, we're going to say no. Make sure you read these again and know what you're trying to get into. All right, so on our 2 drawers, once again, we have our drawer front calculator. If you needed to go ahead in here and change your drawer fronts, any of that stuff, you can change those right here and do any of your overrides. Remember that Microvellum has it on the tree, so it's going to trickle down. It's going to go from your library specifications to your project specifications to your product prompts to your subassembly prompts to your nested subassembly prompts, and then you can take it down a little bit further. It's not going to work backwards, so if you change your pulls down on those drawers, it's not going to come back up to your doors and be able to change those. So always remember that you've got to follow that tree and follow it all the way down. If you hard code it and you change that drawer inside of this one subassembly, and then the client changes them all to 9-inch pulls, it's not going to modify that because you've already trumped that formula inside of there to look back up the tree. So always kind of remember when you're changing that stuff, how is it going to be affected, and are you going to possibly have to change those things down the road? All right. So you can modify these any way that you need them to be. And then the other cool thing that I wanted to show you, and I am going to go back to my original one, is you can have dividers and stuff inside of here. The really cool thing with some of these, I've got some pigeonhole inserts. So if I know that I need certain openings, they have a certain amount of wine bottles, or you're doing an office mail cabinet and you need to have certain openings and everything, so you can go in here and kind of set those different things up for you. A lot of different options that you can go into in those sub-assemblies. I know I'm trying to do two things at once and looking at different screens. I saw someone asking about popping them down into 2D elevations. So we can go into our Draw 2D products. Let me plop these down into plan view for you. And depending on the way that you've got everything set up, it's going to pop it in there just the way you have it drawn up. Cross sections, I will tell you, they're probably going to get mad at me and yell at me in a little bit. You have to be careful when you're doing your cross sections. Please remember the placement of your selection of where you're doing that cross section at. It's going to give you a little bit of a different option. So if I'm trying to do that cross section right over here, I need to be like at 3 inches. And we can get into it a little bit more if you need to be able to see where those are going. So at that 3 inches, that's what we're looking through, that drawer, that fixed shelf, and those drawings right there. So you kind of always got to remember, if you want something over here in another location, you're going to have to be able to manipulate those a little bit. All right. Let me cover one more. I think we have a little bit of time. Unless Craig wants to jump in and tell me that I don't. I'm going to go into my draw. This is another one that I've used quite a bit for some of my trainers, is your uppers. I'm going to go to an upper vertical. How many people usually see this? We have 54-inch tall uppers, and I need 2 bays. I'm going to need about 36. Let's see what we get right there. Let's go ahead and kick that one up to 42. All right. And I'm going to go up here. I'm going to do a 2-door upper. And I'm going to do a 2-door upper here. I'm going to go into my sub-assemblies. I'm going to go into that top one. The top one, remember, top is going to be bay 1. Bay 1 to bay 5, it's top to bottom, and then left to right. I'm going to go into my sub-assembly prompts. And for those door options, I want to change them to framed glass. And let's go ahead and just change them just to have fun. I'm going to change them to knobs. Valley girl my way back out of here. me go ahead and change them so that you actually can see how wide they are. So all those fancy cabinets where they have the 10-foot ceilings and you need them, look how much you just saved to be able to hang those up. You're going to hang that up in one setting. Now, one thing that you have to remember is if you need this finished material on the inside because you have glass doors, you have to think about that because now you only have one side. Are you going to make it all as a white melamine and then come back in and put veneer and then just paint that? Are you going to go ahead and keep it all white melamine and that's what they're going to see through? Are you going to make this entire cabinet veneer and then open it up? So you always kind of have to think about what your material is. It does make it easy to process this one cabinet, but you have to have some thought behind it of what you're going to have to do with your materials. Now, one other thing that I have ran into, that's not supposed to be popping up. All right, one other thing that we've ran into when you are doing some of these subassembly inserts is once you get into a nested subassembly, when you start dropping it into the horizontal and vertical openings, you can only put one drawer in because a 2-drawer or a 3-drawer stack is actually 3 nested drawers inside of one more subassembly, and there's limitations to that. So you can still do some of your subassembly inserts if you needed to. So if I decided the inside of that one opening, where is, I'm going to go ahead and subassembly inserts, and I want to put in a 4-drawer stack. I can add this in, and then you can still do all your pick points and that kind of stuff that you normally do with those. Remember, the one thing is when you're doing all your pick points and your assemblies and that kind of stuff, it's not going to be parametric anymore. So you can still do like we've done on some of the other ones and the different versions and stuff. You can still drop some of these inserts and hardware and everything.
Excuse
but remember,
me, Amy.
Yes.
I want to interject something real quick here. If you right-click that 4-drawer, this is kind of an old school way of doing it, but you can do pick corners and then you can put it in any opening. But
Right.
like you said, it won't be parametric because you're picking a specific point in space. But that's a good tip to show.
Yes, yes. That's where I got sidetracked with something.
Or is that where you were going? Sorry.
A little squirrel kind of like popped in my little head and I went in the opposite direction. So thank you. Yes, right click, pick your corners, and you can drop that in. But once again, yes, it looks correct and it would work if you're getting ready to manufacture this, boom, right off the shop. But if you have to change the height or the width or anything like that, it's not going to stay parametric for you.
Yeah. And while that's drawing, we do have some really good questions. So when you're at a stopping point, I was going to read off some of these questions for you.
Let's have
it.
Or
the both of us could kind of tag team it. Hopefully my echo isn't too bad. I'm in a conference room at the moment. So the first question I liked was, can we create custom bay inserts which work like these, but say their own? So angle dividers, holding menus, or different wine racks, etc. How would the person go about making their own?
Well, a lot of those subassembly inserts, let's go back in.
Maybe I just want to make sure people understand the whole concept of what are they really?
So like in our opening right here, Microvellum has these already dropped in. So not only do you have your adjustable shelves and your divisions, these pigeonhole inserts and like spiral inserts, this wine rack trellis and that, you can go in there and manipulate all of those openings. They actually have it so that they'll cut grooves in them so that they'll lock together. So I would probably start with some of these and see what you can do with those. I would start with what it comes in and then you can change. Like I said, some people have bigger bottles, or their mail is going to be different or something like that. They have certain sizes, but most of all of these pigeonhole inserts and your wine rack trellises and stuff like that, you can manipulate the openings for those.
And you can also add to that combo box list. So if you make your own, such and such, wine rack X, type A, type B, whatever, and you can populate that list to have as many as you want.
Yes.
That's what the power of this is. Each one of those, it's its own little mini spreadsheet, right? Its own little mini subassembly. That's what I like about it. Let's see. Oh, and then another question, how do you add or change the hardware and control the reveals? That might be a quick one to answer.
Okay. So any of your hardwares, like I was saying before, in your trees, you can change as you're going down. So if you want to change all of them, you can go in here for your door and drawer pulls and change those. You can actually change you write your door options and your drawer front options here if you needed to. If you wanted to change just one individually, so this bottom one down here, I wanted to be able to modify, I can go into my subassembly prompts. Make sure you click on the actual drawer front and not the hardware. And once again, I'm going to change this drawer front slab. And you can go into the pulls and you can actually change those pulls if you needed to. So let's go into a knob. You can actually change it to locks if you needed to as an individual basis. All right. So as you can see, you can change it to knobs. So if you wanted to have a display with 8 different types of knobs on all of these drawer fronts, you could actually change those out to however you needed to. Same thing with your hinges. If for some reason you needed to go in here without selecting your hinge, Amy.
Yeah, probably the most common place to change is when you first start the job. There's a wizard, and you can choose all that right out the gate. And then
always start with I always try to say it's about a 75% rule. Do you want to change it 75 times, or do you want to change it one time? So if you know that the whole entire job is going to be one thing, you want to change it up in your project wizard, because I would just rather change one small product, as an individual room, or maybe, the conference rooms had something different. So kind of think about it. You want to be able to go into that project wizard and go boom, 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 and make any modifications that the architect or the owner wants to change without trying to re-prompt every single cabinet and make that modification. So always think about that tree, because you can always take that tree down. You can't go backwards up that tree.
Mm-hmm. Is it possible to save these products back to the library after you've made these custom?
Oh yes, and I would definitely say that is one of my biggest reasons that I think I've heard from some of the 6, 7 users of why they don't want to go to 7. And I've been there and I've done that, and I completely understand. Is you've spent years and decades and stuff like that creating all of these custom cabinets. As you can see, I just created 4 within an hour. All you have to do is go in here and go into your modify products and save it to the library, and you can save it back to that library and you can use it over again. And if you needed to have basically everything was the same, except maybe you needed to change these openings every once in a while depending on the oven cabinet, you still have that option to go in there and manipulate those openings. So yes, very simple, just to go in here and save this product to the library. And now you have your custom creation over and over again. A lot of these things I also say for commercial people that use dental offices, they have like 12 o'clock cabinets or exam rooms or anything like that. If you know that you're in and you're repeating those over and over again with the same dental offices, go ahead and save that out. Hotels, apartment complexes and stuff, go ahead and design that line of furniture or casework or anything that you need, and save it to your library and just pop those up again. And all you have to do is change the sizes.
Very nice. You're doing a great job, Amy. I'm enjoying this. And the audience is doing a really good job. We're getting some really good questions. I don't know if we'll be able to get to them all, but I thought we should answer this one.
Okay.
What happens when a material thickness changes after the product has been created? So like, you've shown us that the field measurement changes, but what about like, you mic your material and
yeah. So if you go here and in here and mic your material, so let me go into, I gotta make sure I know which spec group. All right, so I'm in the HPDL and I'm gonna go into project properties. I'm gonna make sure in my HPDL, gonna go to my project materials. Let's find base side unfinished, and we're just gonna call it crazy. I'm gonna put it at 1.5 inch material right there. And because it is parametric, it's not like the old school ones where you have, now, I will say some of the old school people were really good with formulas and the spreadsheets and all of that kind of stuff. I just kind of threw it in there, got it out to fabrication, wrote some little scribble notes on it and said it was good. But definitely because, oh, watch, see what it's gonna do now.
what happened there?
Great. See, y'all,
Looked away.
Let me see what I've
1.5 inches. I wonder.
You know what? Because it wasn't my material. I was trying to be fast and I should have just done it correctly. Based. Because I had it, it's probably copied from someone else's because I use this as my testing.
Oh yeah, I see it says none. You can't have a material called none.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll do what you tell it to do. You can also change it like where Amy showed us, and you can also this is something that 6.7 libraries did not have. We've added the ability to change materials at the product level. There's a whole tab dedicated to materials.
So this is definitely something I would suggest when you're doing one of these product starters like this. Okay, so now it's come back. I've put my thicker material in. And because it's based on that base left side material, and then it looks at the material type, and then that thickness, and then calculates it from there, all of that math is pre-built inside of there. So even if you change it, 1/100th of an inch, or from a 3/4 to a 1 inch material, it's going to be able to modify that. Definitely with these product starters, because you may need the back one color and each side a different color, or the dividers a color, you can go into your product materials, and these are all grayed out. I can't click them and touch them, but if I do edit part material, I can go back inside of here and pick my 3 dots, and I can change it to certain pointers. And then that way, if it's modified, or I can use my sheet stock or solid stock or buyout or anything like that in there. So you can change them individually inside of those cabinets now, which does make it very handy for these product starters when you need to kind of pick and choose what's going to be what on those.
All right, you ready for a couple more questions before we wrap this up?
Them.
So how to change panel joint types. So I think what they're meaning is construction options. So right now you're showing us dowel, but are there other construction methods?
Yes. Once again, if you needed, there we go. I'm going to get back out to.
Also, not only just the dowel, but also the backs. Like, how are the backs captured and constructed?
Right. So individually, like I said before, we can go in here with any cabinet. You can do this, and you can make modifications of how your back construction is going to be changed. What kind of edge banding are you drilling through on shelves? What kind of toe kicks? All of that stuff can be manipulated at the product level, which is very nice and a little bit different than some of the other versions. To be able to move, you can remove bottoms. So if you're putting in over plumbing stacks, or you have a sink cabinet and you just want to remove the whole back, there are a lot of different options that you can do individually. If not, the new thing that's very nice inside of your global variables, or your project wizard. Always start with your project wizard, go to your construction. There's additional construction methods, hardware and that kind of stuff that you can control some of those things if you're insetting doors and the way that you do that. Your global variables, though, will be where you decide your library construction on your backs. So let's actually do tops and bottoms. That's an easier one to show. And so you have your different insets, your sides, your tops, your bottoms. Your back machining, are you going to do lock dados and pilot holes? There's a lot of different options. Are you going to capture it 2 sides, all 4 sides? So any of that stuff is going to be your regular setup. So if you actually did conformat screws or something like that, or dados, you just change it like you normally would with any of your other library products, and it's actually going to follow it down from your project variables to your so project wizards and global variables.
And I'll add to that, if you just want to experiment with different options, I would probably just pick like an open base, something that draws really quick. You could prompt the carcass, it has all of those options in there as well. I don't know if you've ever done that, Amy, but you can like, you know, you were showing us subassembly prompts. Well, in this version of the library, the carcass is a subassembly as well.
Yes.
And so you could just, you know, look in that guy, prompts of that, and then you go over to machining or construction, and there's quite a bit of options that you can get into there.
Yeah, you can take out nailers and that kind of stuff. So if you have equipment that's in the way, different machining options and stuff. So there you have your screw, your dados, your cams, and that kind of stuff.
And once you decide what it is you want, you could then go to the global and then change it to permanently affect the whole project.
Yes, and if you don't know this, if you see that it's red, there's usually a formula inside of there. And if you right click on it and say show formula, now you know that you need to go to your global variable, and this is the global variable that's manipulating some of those things.
Yeah, I wish I had that 6.7.
Oh, I'm telling you. The other really cool thing is on your widths and heights, anything here, if you double click inside of those, this is just a cheat sheet right there. You can go from point to point. Remember, this is as the crow flies, so you want to make sure that you stay on a correct X or Y axis on those.
Cool. I think somebody wants to see how you saved it to the library. I looked away. Did you? You didn't actually save it though, did you?
I didn't actually save it. I can. So let's do, we're going to go over here to our tabs, modify. Make sure you're in modify products. There's a save product to library. And you're going to click your product. Also remember that this is set up on some of your permissions. So make sure that you are a user that's allowed to save, or if you don't want a whole bunch of people saving and messing up your library, you can set those permissions up. You can just put it in any random category. I like to put it in miscellaneous. You can actually go into your database explorer and create your own custom library if you needed to. And we can just go in here and call it our live cabinet. So we're putting it in miscellaneous. I'm calling it live cabinet.
And someone asked this as well. Sometimes they want to know, it doesn't always refresh immediately. So if you have that in your setup, one tip is if you go to project and click change library, that'll get it to refresh. See how it's not there?
Yep, it's not
so
there.
Instead of, you don't need to restart Microvellum, just go into change active library right there, and then just click, you know, wherever it popped up somewhere.
It propped it up
just
over
click
here.
that, hit OK, and that sort of triggers a refresh.
Okay.
So then it'll it'll reload that form.
Very nice tip. I always just restart it.
No, I'm too lazy to restart.
So there's my live cabinet. Just like any of the other cabinets, you can create your own picture and drop it in there. So that way, if you wanted a realistic view, there's options to be able to do that through the database explorer. So yeah, so now that we have that live cabinet, I pick it out, drop it in. It saved it in as all of my dimensions and stuff, but I can modify those if I needed to. Manipulate it just like any starter cabinet.
Yeah, what it does, anytime you change a subassembly, it becomes unique to that product. And so all that gets saved into the database. This is something that 6.7 and our older versions struggled to do properly. And we've now got that all working as it should. So it'll recall those subassemblies as you saved them.
Right, because a little bit different, and I know this is kind of going a little bit expansed on this. Most people, we don't do everything with cut parts anymore. So as you can see, when you open it up, I don't have a left, right, top, bottom, all that kind of stuff. The reason we're able to do these product starters is because we've done these sub-assemblies. So your carcass base is your four-sided box, and then you start shoving all of these other things inside of there. And that's what allows us to be able to have that flexibility and the parametric abilities on these product starters.
Yeah, it's really, the sky is the limit to what you can do, because it's this open nature like this. You just roll up your sleeves and it's like a cut list, you know, I mean, it's.
And if you like having your spreadsheet, some people are spreadsheet people, you can still go in here and do your show your subassembly files and be able to see those subassembly parts and the prompts and that kind of stuff. So you can still work through that. It's just a different user interface the way I was doing it with the product prompts.
Since we have a lot of people that are new to Microvellum, did you show them the part properties also if you're not a spreadsheet person? I just thought of that. Maybe that would be a good thing before. And then Clay, you're going to have to let us know. I know we're starting to run late. You're going to have to let us know, because we'll just keep going all day here.
Oh yeah, I totally get it. We have a lot of good questions coming in, as well as on the YouTube channel. So that's where I've been a little bit over on the YouTube channel. So definitely, yeah, we could go on a little bit more if you guys want to. I'm game.
Yeah.
So yeah, so through the part properties, it's that same, there's a lot of different ways that you can interface with the product. It all kind of depends on what you're doing. Are you just quickly changing sizes? Then I would go into your prompts. If you actually needed to do some of your origin and machining tokens and that kind of stuff, this is where I use that. If I really need to dig down into formulas, I go into my edit design data. So as I was saying earlier, with our little red flag that we had when we were in our product prompts, that told me I changed something. So I can see that I've modified something in with this one. Let's just go. So our subassembly carcass base, this is our old school. You're going to see your left, right, top, bottom, sides. You have your part origins. Even if you needed to come in here and change edge banding, this is where I would come in and do edge banding.
The part should illuminate in 3D too when you click on it, which is a nice touch. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yep, I don't.
Oh, yeah, there you go. And then as you click through those parts, it'll illuminate the part that's, that you've clicked on. So that's nice.
I don't even know which one I decided to.
It's in the upper left top right there. See how it illuminates it, so you know which part. There's a connection there.
Total side note, one of my favorite things that Microvellum's done recently, which is so grateful because I've had so many that are missed. Finished left end.
Oh, the layer changes?
Yes, it boomed, it pops, it's blue now. And so now I know that I didn't forget my finished left end, and I don't have people screaming at me because it's all the way installed and they're like, where's your finished end?
Yeah,
so,
it's a good visual.
It's very, very nice if you're doing those. Now you can see that that's a finished end product right there.
And it puts a dimension sign too on there, because it assumes that, it's probably at the end of a run. So it's also annotating and dimensioning the product as well. Let's see, boy, all these questions, I don't know where to start. Here's a tough one. Can you add a newer library and keep an older library and switch between them? You want me to answer that one? I will say sometimes mixing old and new it depends on your level of Microvellum expertise. If you've had old customized products, and you bring them into this new library, it may work at a different level. You may have to go in and correct some orphan references. Often it's a lot quicker than starting from scratch. Microvellum has a thing called a configuration, so you can switch between different configurations. So you can, be running your old library, keeping your shop busy, while at the same time you can flip over to a new library and be setting that up.
Yeah, I would definitely say that the new way that we have the interface for the configurations to be able to hop back and forth between those and make changes and stuff.
Yeah,
I really think two separate configurations are.
Yeah, that's the safest, best way to do it. But all your old products aren't necessarily lost, but you can't expect them to just all of a sudden work instantly, because it's just a spreadsheet. Okay, so you can bring it in. And maybe you added some new global variables, but they're not in this new library. And so they're going to have a reference issue. You know what I'm saying? So, it is possible. It just depends. It could take a little bit of work. Let's see. Comes to visions. Let's see. If plastic laminate interior finish is required in the example with glass doors, can the sizes of the laminate parts be linked to the size of the opening in order to keep the product parametric?
You can. It's going to take a little math, and there's not the easy button with it. That's, like I said, that's one thing that you kind of have to think about when you're manufacturing it, how you want to be able to do that. But if you needed this interior to be finished, that's the option right here. This is just an interior finish. If you changed it to open finish, as you can see with our product materials, now all of those parts are coming out as a PL1. So it's actually going to be finished versus our interior finish that it originally came in was all melamine. So if you did want it to be plastic laminate, you're going to have to switch it here to the open finish if you're putting glass inside of there. But trying to break it up, so if you needed just a little bitty piece that was, you know, whatever, 12 by 24 to go in there, no, that's going to take a little bit of work on your end to be able to.
You could add that. You would probably want to add that to the insert. So wherever that insert occurs, and you could link it to the glass doors, it can automatically, you know, it's just an Excel formula. So like if there's a lot of if statements. So if this is true, then, you know, quantity 1, otherwise quantity 0 or whatever. You know, it's just a bunch of Excel logic.
Right.
Okay. How do I save an existing subassembly as an insert if I wanted to insert a drawer stack behind a door, for instance? How do I save? So I think the question is, how does he create a new one? You can save a subassembly to a library, maybe as a new name. So if you make modifications, you could then save it back to the library as a new name. Database Explorer is also a way to manage some of this. Maybe there's been a lot of questions about, I think they don't understand library's Database Explorer. Maybe if we show them that, it might connect the dots, or we can rename categories, rename products, you know, kind of rename the subassemblies, add, maybe just take 30 seconds and explain this.
All right. And I want to say I'm good enough just to be dangerous inside of here. So for this one, like for my products, I can add a new category, and this would be, so now anytime I save this, or you can have, you know, Billy's custom cabinets or XYZ hospital custom cabinets, so you can go ahead and create those in here. You have your sub-assemblies. So I think this is kind of what you were talking about, is some of your sub-assembly inserts and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's two libraries, if you will. There's a product library and a sub-assembly library. And so it's two different, you know, areas. And as you drill in here, yeah, you can, and then what we have here on the left is that's your database. And so we've shoved these, if you will, shoved these spreadsheets into the database, okay? Now, if you wanted to, on the right hand of the screen is Amy's on disk, just her hard drive. You could drag stuff in and out. So if you wanted to make a backup or pass a, you know, a subassembly to another person or whatever, that's kind of what this is for. You can assign pictures here if you wanted a new pretty rendered picture for your product or subassembly. This is where you manage all that kind of stuff.
Yep, so let's go in here for our miscellaneous. You can just right click in there and
set a new image. Yep.
And there it is. And you can browse for the new images and that kind of stuff. So you can pick, that way you actually see what's going in there, and it's not your original your tall cabinet.
All right, well, I was just chatting with Clay. I think probably at this point, we'll stay on and chat, answer some of these, but we probably should wrap up the presentation unless you had anything in conclusion. Amy, you wanted to show us?
No, I think that's it. Just kind of let everybody know some feedback or anything if you want more items like this. If you want training in your shop or remotely, we do that at Microvellum, so contact your account manager. and we can definitely set something like that up. If there's other things that you want to be able to see in some of these live things, ping everybody at Microvellum and let them know kind of the topics and stuff you want to be able to cover, and just keep us informed, because the more we can get you to use the product and upgrade and that kind of stuff, it's going to be a lot better. There's so many things each year that these guys come out with that really enhance being able to use it on the shop floor. I was on the shop floor. I've been in the factories and all that kind of stuff since 2004. So I know that being able to create the sawdust, I know the aches and pains of trying to upgrade your software. But I promise you, if you can take that jump from 6.7 to 7, things like this, these product starters, your extruded product builders, just the way the sub-assemblies are, some of the prompts and stuff, the amount of time that you save and the things that they're building upon each year are really going to help your performance as an engineer. It's going to help you save your time, your money, your materials actually in the shop and on installation. Don't let your software get old. Everybody else out there has the newest iPhone and everything like that. Go ahead and get the newest Microvellum. It's going to make it worth it for you. It's going to make your shop run better. It is going to be a pain trying to do that upgrade to get there, but it's going to be worth it in the long run to be able to do products like this.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Amy. Good tips there for sure. All right. Yeah. So I think, like Lenny said, we are going to end the video piece of this, the live transmission of today's event, but we will stay on. There's so many questions we didn't have a chance to get to, and we could have kept going here for probably hours, but so we will try to get to those as we conclude here. Let me switch things back over to my screen. I did launch a poll for those interested in getting some follow-up information from someone on our team. If you want to get some additional training, like what you saw today from Amy or other techs that we have, please let us know, and we will get back with you and schedule some training for you. All right, so like I said, that'll about do it for today. We'd like to definitely thank Lenny and Amy, and especially Chris again for coming on today. You guys all made it for a very lively conversation, and not to mention those questions, really good ones today. Next week, I will hope you will join us for another live webinar that we're preparing. We're going to be having a live feature spotlight Q&A. These types of episodes are very fast-paced, and we'll be covering a lot of different topics. So I hope you will join us here at the same time next week. Registrations will be open for that event by the end of today. And of course, watch your emails a little later for the invitation. Also, one other thing to start thinking about is TechCon 2019. That's our user group conference that's coming up this spring. Actually, May 2nd and 3rd are the days that we are having that event. Each year, we have users from around the world joining our team for a week of activity with a focus on our users on that Wednesday night, Thursday, and Friday. The rest of our team from around the world, our techs and different representatives are flying in from Australia and New Zealand and India and all those places to meet for a week of activity. So definitely take a look at that when you get a chance at microvellum.com/TechCon. Registration is open, and you can access the new portal that we've set up for TechCon. So check that out. You'll get to see some of the activity happening there. You can actually even download the app to stay connected if you are planning to attend. So for those of you who don't know TechCon, it's a place where users can get together, they can talk about the software, they can talk about ideas for new features, and even help shape the future of your software that you guys use every day. So I hope you can check that out. If you have any questions, please let us know. Again, as Amy mentioned too, we're always looking for people to come on live to talk about their experience with Microvellum. And if you want to come on to feature what you're doing with your software, please let us know at live@microvellum.com, and we will follow up with you. So on behalf of our team here at Microvellum, I'd like to thank you once again for joining us, and we will see you next time here on Microvellum Live.